Alright YouTube, so we are back, of course, to talk about some Final Fantasy VII Remake. So recently we got another financial report from Square Enix, specifically for Quarter 3. Now there's not a whole lot from it that we need to talk about or discuss, but there is a quote from Yasuke Matsuda. There's actually have a Q&A for once. If you remember with like the last, I think, 2 financial report kind of videos that we've done, I think it is, we talked about how there hasn't been a Q&A for Yasuke Matsuda, which is pretty weird because prior to that, like every one of the financial reports that I've ever looked at and covered on my channel, I've always had a Q&A with him. So it's nice to finally hear from Yasuke Matsuda again. It feels like it's been a while. But before we hop into that, in case you missed my community post from the other day, my dudes, or you don't follow me on Twitter, we finally secured a PlayStation 5. We've already downloaded Integrate, already downloaded Episode Intermission, already started playing Episode Intermission. We'll definitely have some sort of review type thing within the next couple days once I've finished Episode Intermission. So anyways, with today's video, with this Yasuke Matsuda quote that we're going to look at, it's about Remake on PC, so Remake on the Epic Games Store. And it seems like either Remake on PC underperformed, or maybe it just kind of hit the mark that they were expecting. So the first question that Matsuda has asked is, what feedback have you gotten on the Epic Games Store version of Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, which you launched in December 2021? Also, why have you only offered it via the Epic Games Store? He responds with, we have seen a fair response. I cannot go into the specific reasons why we chose the Epic Games Store, but our decision was the outcome of our comparative analysis of a variety of different factors. Sounds like a bullshit answer. I believe what Matsuda meant to say was money. Like, that's the reason, right? Because pretty much everybody wanted the game to be on Steam. Like, that's the biggest, I believe today is still the biggest, like, PC platform, right? Or launcher, whatever you want to call it. Everybody wanted it on Steam. Like, Epic had to have thrown a shit ton of money at them. Or Valve, or whatever you want to say. I don't know. I'm not a PC gamer, obviously. They didn't do some sort of comparative analysis, and they got, like, people in the lab, like, doing fucking math equations and ratios to figure out whether or not they wanted to put fucking Remake on the Epic launchers. It's money. Just money. That's it. Now, putting aside the platform stuff, whenever the game did launch on Epic, there were problems, right? I don't think there's anything, at least off the top of my head, that was, like, super game-breaking where you just could not play the game. A lot of visual stuff, though. A lot of screen tearing, hiccups, stuttering, all that other type of shit. But people expected more, right? Those weren't like the biggest issues ever, but people wanted more from the game. They wanted to perform, you'd think, perfectly on PC, right? When the game came out on, PS4, which is what I've been playing it on for almost 2 years now, I've never had any issues. Other than like the visual texture pop-in type shit that everybody's been talking about forever. Like, other than that, like performance-wise on PlayStation 4, the game has always performed perfectly for me. But to be perfectly fair, in their defense, everybody's PC is different, right? Everybody's built different. That's why there's recommended specs. Recommended, like, optimized specs for your PC and recommended minimum specs just to be able to play the game. So everybody's going to have a different experience with the game on PC. But for Yasuke Matsuda to say that the response to the game on Epic has been fair isn't good, right? It's not necessarily bad. Fair means that they probably maybe hit the sales they were expecting. And then fan, feedback has been mixed. Because some people have had perfectly fine experiences on PC. So it's probably like 50-50, and they probably got around what they're expecting in terms of sales. But it is interesting that he didn't go into that. Like, I'm kind of curious how much money it did make. How many people bought the game on PC. Something else I did find interesting as well from this, is, going back to the question that we looked at, is that they ask him why, like, Epic, and he says that he can't specify, but this is a financial report. Like, this is the shit that's meant for, like, investors and stuff. You're usually pretty candid with stuff like this, and it's interesting that Yasuke Matsuda is like, well, we can't really talk about why we're with Epic right now. It's like, these are kind of the people you're supposed to tell that shit to. It's like, it was just kind of weird to me. Like, he could have, at the very least, given like a bullshit answer and just said, like, we think that Epic is, the future of PC gaming. He could have just said simply that, and that'd be a satisfactory answer. But to say that, well, I can't really go into it right now on a financial report, that is just, I don't know, it's strange. The other kind of interesting quote that's being pulled from this financial report that I feel like we should maybe just mention really quickly is that they seem to be underwhelmed by the performance of Guardians of the Galaxy, despite it having pretty glowing reviews. So it says, this is a breakdown for the digital entertainment segment. The HD Games sub-segment launched Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy in Quarter 3. Despite strong reviews, the game's sales on launch undershot our initial expectations. However, sales initiatives that we kicked off in November 2021 and continued into the new year have resulted in sales growth, and we intend to work to continue to expand sales to make up for the title's slow start. I thought that was pretty interesting because if you guys remember last year whenever I did one of the gaming wrap-up events things for Square Enix, whichever event it was that Guardians of the Galaxy was revealed at, I mentioned how I was curious how the game was going to perform, because I felt like Marvel's Avengers was going to burn a lot of people, right? It was a terribly received game. I believe it lost them, at least at one point, like $100+ million or some shit. So they're releasing another Marvel game by, I think, a different studio, but still a Marvel project from under the Square Enix umbrella. And it seems like that was the case. Like, it had a slow start, but people are learning that it is a good game. I've not played it yet, but everything I've ever heard has been positive about Guardians of the Galaxy. I know it launched October last year, and it took until the end of like November for it to exceed 1 million sales, which isn't really good. Like some games do worse than that, obviously, but you're talking about a big AAA game. It's a Marvel's project. It's a Square Enix project, and for it to take a month or more to exceed 1 million sales, whenever a lot of big games will get multiple millions of sales on the first day, like that is pretty bad. But it seems like it's getting better over time. But my dudes, that's going to be pretty much the video, so I'm kind of curious whenever Remake's going to come to Steam. I don't believe it's public yet how long this like epic exclusivity is, but the response according to Matsuda was fair, which just isn't that good. But either way, I'm excited to finish playing Episode Intermission later tonight, and then hop back into Remake, dude. It's the same Remake, obviously, but it's just visually better. I can say, dude, playing Episode Intermission, I noticed like the increased like graphics, but also like the frame rate. That's the main thing I've been noticing when playing Episode Intermission, dude. This shit performs so motherfucking good on PS5. God. But my dudes, that's going to be the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys already know I did more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on all notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @YT. I'm a Discord. Links to some works are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more. And nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine or leave it like Cobain.